Bloomberg Balance of Power co-host Kailey Leinz joining us in our warm and cozy Washington, D.C. bureau. I say warm and cozy because we already know, Kailey, it's probably going to look at least a bit different.
Yeah, because it's going to be very cold. It's going to be cold all across the country, but D.C. is not immune to the Arctic blast that is coming and going to bring temperatures to the low single digits on Monday. And that's just the actual temperature. The real feel could be much lower. And for that reason, the president-elect announced today that he will be taking the oath of office to become the 47th president of the United States, not outside the Capitol, as is tradition, with an audience viewing on the Mall, but instead inside the rotunda. So all of the pomp and circumstance will move indoors instead of people lining up on the National Mall. Capital One Arena, where he's holding a pre-inauguration rally on Sunday, will also be open on Monday for spectators. And Donald Trump says he'll parade from his swearing in to Capital One and join supporters there after the proceedings at the Capitol. So this is going to look very different. We've only seen 3 times in history an inauguration moved indoors. The last time this happened was in 1985 when Ronald Reagan was sworn in. So it is going to make things a little bit different, but of course it's not going to stop Donald Trump from becoming the next president.
Kailey, we do know that this is a guy who absolutely cares about optics. He likes the way things look. I remember Sean Spicer back in 2017 talking about crowd size at that first inauguration. What does all this mean for that sort of thing?
Well, they are not going to be able to fit that many people in a Capitol rotunda. In fact, if you go back and look at the presidential archives of Reagan's inauguration in 1985, that room itself looks like a can of sardines. I mean, or a Where's Waldo picture. It is incredibly packed in there. They're only going to be able to fit so many people. And those people, by and large, will be those most senior who would have joined him on the platform if this were traditionally the outdoor held ceremony. So his cabinet nominees, of course, Vice President J.D. Vance, the other presidents who will be in attendance for the inauguration, as well as the CEOs, one of which you just mentioned, Carol, TikTok CEO Shou Chew, but also Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook from Apple, Jeff Bezos. They are all expected to be in attendance as well.
You know what's interesting, though? President Xi of China will not be there. And Donald Trump came out talking on, I believe, on Truth Social earlier about a conversation with him and talking about some different issues. I am wondering kind of what he laid out there. I think he said he talked about balancing trade, fentanyl, TikTok, some other subjects, maybe how this kind of sets the tone for what the U.S.-China relationship might be under his second term.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Carol. It had raised eyebrows here in Washington that Xi Jinping was invited to the inauguration in the first place. He will not be coming. China's Vice President Han Zheng will be here instead. But clearly, the lack of attendance is not enough to stop Donald Trump from actually interacting with Xi Jinping ahead of taking the oath of office. He did say that fentanyl and trade were on the agenda on this call, mentioned TikTok as well, keeping in mind, as you were just discussing with Caroline, the Chinese government is going to have a role to play if some kind of deal is to be negotiated by Trump. But it also comes, as we know, that Donald Trump has promised potentially sweeping tariffs on all Chinese goods coming into the U.S. So Trump may be looking here for points of leverage to exercise things that he wants to get out of China. And this might just be the beginning of what could be ongoing conversations and negotiations. And it really initiates the idea that this could be happening starting on day one, and that it doesn't just go from tariffs and China policy on day one, but other policies as well, as we expect he could be addressing issues like immigration almost immediately after taking the oath.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Kailey, because if I go back to my reference point being January 20th, 2017, a flurry of executive orders coming out just hours after he was inaugurated. And we saw that continue in the early days of the presidency as well. What should we be looking out for? What should we be watching? I assume immigration executive orders certainly at the top of the list.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bloomberg has had, through our wonderful colleagues here, some reporting on what exactly those executive orders could entail when it comes to certain deportations and tightening up restrictions at the border. So those could be among the very first things that Donald Trump tries to do as he begins this second term. But we could see other actions as well. He has promised repeatedly and stood by the statement that he does intend to pardon defendants from the January 6th attack on the Capitol back in 2021. How sweeping those pardons could be, who exactly is going to get it, if it will be all offenders, just nonviolent ones. It's unclear what those decisions actually will be, but he had said he could do that on the very first day in office. Something else we could see, not just unique to the president, but movement on his cabinet, as the Senate could vote to confirm some of the first cabinet secretaries to actually be able to be active in this administration on day one. Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, who, of course, is the Secretary of State designate, is seen as the most likely to be essentially confirmed and sworn in to that role immediately.
You know, Kailey, I keep thinking about, we have so many conversations, you guys do too, you and Joe Matthew on Balance of Power, of just how many questions there are about what we heard on the campaign trail versus what actually gets put into action. And as you said, on his first day in office, there's a lot he can do as president alone, but then he also has to work with Congress. We know about the majority and slim majority that the Republicans have, but I mean, what is the posture that Donald Trump will face as president with the Democrats in Congress?
Yeah, this is the difficulty, Carol, because campaigning is one thing, governing is something else, and governing within the existing branches of government. The United States system suggests that Donald Trump can only do so much on his own. He is going to need congressional buy-in to some of his biggest ticket items that he wants to address, most specifically when it comes to tax policy. And there is a great deal of debate here in Washington as to how and when that gets done. The House preference through Speaker Mike Johnson, who has the support of Donald Trump, is to do one big reconciliation bill, budget reconciliation, a process that would essentially combine a whole host of things from the border and energy to the tax reform itself into one big package that just needs to pass with a majority in both chambers. The Senate would rather split things up, try to get a win early, save taxes for later, because it's going to take some time to put together. But that's the reality. Donald Trump is only going to be able to do so much in his first 100 days.
You know what everybody wants to know, Kailey? Is it going to be a Trump Bible that he is sworn in on?
Oh, good question. We'll have to inquire. I'll get back to you.